Hello, and welcome to Postcards from a Soul and Her Human. I'm the human, Sophia. Welcome back if you are returning, and welcome if it's your first time. I very much appreciate your presence, as always. My experience is getting more magical every day, and I use the word magical a lot. And it's really become just part of my vocabulary because my life is honestly magical. And I think that this is something I really couldn't understand from a mental perspective before I really started to engage with the magic all around me in my daily life. And I think this is so easy to miss because we are such creatures of habit. We're creatures of our conditioning. We're creatures of our mind and what we're connected to mentally, physically. So a lot of our attention is captured by everything that is running as a mechanism in our lives. Our schedules, our connections, our work, everything that we do. It disengages us or disconnects us from the natural wonder and the magic that's going on all around us. And I talk about the universe all the time, how the universe speaks to us. And it's not the universe. The universe is a vast quantum field of possibility, but who speaks to us through our intuition and around us in our natural world through signs and symbols and synchronicities and serendipity are our soul team. They're our spirit guides, our higher self, who is our oversoul. And they're constantly guiding us and speaking to us all the time. And if we notice, we see it, and then our lives become like a magical fantasy. I mean, I said this before, I feel like I could walk outside and see a unicorn on my yard eating dandelions, and it wouldn't faze me at all. It's a state of mind that allows for our lives to become fantastic. And I don't mean in a dramatic sense at all. I just mean that every day is a discovery of something magical. And it is having the effect of, and this has been acknowledged and validated in the messages that I receive, that I'm expanding exponentially. And this is what is kind of the golden key that unlocks the door to the kingdom of the universe. And what I mean by that is just the vastness of the possibilities all around us. And from what I understand, and I'm becoming quite the physicist, the armchair physicist here, is that our thoughts collapse a wave into matter, or energy into form. And what happens basically, and this is a really high, a very simplistic explanation of what I understand to be the truth about our existence here, is that our thoughts create our reality. Well, how does that work? We are electromagnetic beings, and we emanate extraordinary power, electromagnetic power, and it magnetizes, and it creates. It's not a byproduct of our existence that has no purpose. And if you look at the quantum field, which is what the quantum field is, a vast field of possibilities. It is put your order in at this window and pick it up at this window, depending on your frequency and what you're able to project into the universe. So when you think small about your life and you only focus on what's in front of you and what you have to do, and maybe what even you're doing that you don't like doing, when you comply and compromise and contort, and you compromise your personal integrity for the life that you're leading because of your external goals, which really in the long run have no purpose or meaning at all, you miss all this. You don't get to experience the true co-creative quality of your life. And so when you think about the quantum field as being a mass field of possibility, so I could order a unicorn, and if I am able to imagine that in a genuine and authentic way, the universe can create that and bring that into my world. And maybe I wanted to say maybe I'm exaggerating a little, but I don't feel like I am. My world has become absolutely magical, and I know that the broader my expansiveness becomes, the more I live in the vastness of the unknown about my being, about my divine self, the more I'm co-creating or manifesting magic in my life. So magic attracts magic. Fear attracts fear. It's just magnetism. It's such a simple concept. If we can just really let go of the need for everything to be extraordinarily complex. And it's the simplicity that really escapes us, because we're so used to a world where we have to troubleshoot constantly. We have to strategize. We have to plan everything. We can't just live our lives free of all of that, because that would mean that we are not productive and we're not being accountable or responsible for the lives that we are creating, because we're not doing it from a place of effort, which is stemmed from all the conditioning in our body, which is primarily based in fear of disappointing ourselves or others, fear of not being enough, fear of all the pain that we carry that we don't want to be expressed in our lives, and we do that through relationships and yada yada. You've heard this a billion times, I get it. But what I'm understanding is the more that I accept that my life is magical, the more that I expect it to be, the more magic appears. And I'm having some extraordinary experiences that illustrate this every day. And I've become such a student of the magic that it's hard for me now to even remember who I was before, the person who needed to be productive in order to feel like I was doing my part, the person who needed to maintain relationships I didn't really feel a resonation with because I felt an obligation, the person who made herself very small to make others feel big. And there are two parts to this that I think I'm going to get into. I wasn't sure if I was going to talk about one of them, but I think that it may be coming. But the first thing I want to talk about is really the barrier to this, and specifically in regards to empathy, because I'm an extraordinarily empathetic person. You have to be empathetic in order to be psychic. Because being psychic is touching or connecting with unseen energy, claircognizance, which is something that has emerged in my body so much lately. I mean, I'm having some visions about myself and about my role in my life and my mission that are outrageous, that are otherworldly. And I keep being told to trust what I feel, trust what I know, because it's the truth. This is what psychic ability is, and we all have it. It's just a matter of what we have access to based on the clarity in our body and the resonance with our intuition. It's all right there. It's buried underneath all the debris and the noise. We just can't get to it because we're too consumed with our minds and our belief systems and the matrix and really surviving every day. Surviving ourselves, which is the trauma and pain that we carry that we don't want to look at, which is why we don't have access to our intuition, because we have to empty the debris in our body, our emotional debris, in order to have a clear resonance with our intuition. My body is a resonance chamber. That's how I view it now, and my diet reflects it now. That's a whole other subject, but everything that I do now in my life is really to keep this resonance chamber clear and open so I can receive guidance. I can receive intuitive knowing through claircognizance. And as my other spiritual gifts start to expand, I'm really in awe of everything that I'm being exposed to, or I should say that I'm noticing and discovering in my own small little world, which is very small, every day because of my resonance, because of the clarity in my body. And it took a lot of work to get here. I'm not going to say that it didn't. I had to let go of everything that I thought I knew about myself and the world. I discussed this in the last episode at length, in the one about the 3D matrix, about the one entitled Wake Up, Neo. We're all connected to the matrix with our minds, and this is how we're conditioned. And I lived that life for 58 years. I didn't know I was in a dangerous relationship. I had compromised my integrity, personal integrity so much I didn't know what it was anymore. I had no access to my intuitive channel, no resonance. I had to go through a very powerful, accelerated purging of all the toxic beliefs in my body that are embedded in our energy. They have to be purged. They have to be removed. So, I lived my life that way for 58 years. I didn't understand that all of this was available to me and I had no access because I was asleep, basically at the wheel of my life, driving into walls and not understanding why I always had a headache. But once we go through this awakening phase, and whatever you want to call it, we get access to this vastness inside of ourselves, and within this vastness, if we're willing to hold on to the or engage, I should say, with what's happening and not look away from it because we fear the unknown, which is what ultimately ends up keeping us from really going deep into that vastness of ourselves. The unknown is where all the magic is. Our mind doesn't know how to get there. Our mind will try to stop us from going because it doesn't understand. If it can't compute what's happening, it screams at you that there's danger, and it wants you to turn around and go back to what's familiar, even though it's miserable or confusing or painful. And this is something I had to discover on my own. I've talked about this throughout the episodes. But in this vastness, this magical arena that I now live in, I'm witnessing it every day, and I'm also witnessing the expansion of my spiritual gifts in ways that I didn't expect. And I wasn't sure if I was going to talk about this because I thought, well, what if it doesn't keep happening? Or what if this is just my imagination? All the what ifs that your brain injects in everything magical because it wants to manage it with its limited ability to manage. Like, your brain has, one eye and one finger, and it wants to run your life. Where your body is a resonant instrument of the divine, and every being around you that is assigned to you, including your oversoul, is working with you, orchestrating your life. It's up to us to pay attention through our resonance, through our intuitive channel, and then follow the breadcrumbs that we're given. This is so much fun. It just becomes an intrigue every day. And then live the life that our soul wrote for us. This is a template that we're living out. This is a soul contract. This is a blueprint that we are given when we come into this incarnation. And our job is to get all the junk out of the way so we can find the blueprint, and then we can start living the life that our soul intended. And for me, it took 58 MFing years to get here, but that was all part of the design. I was meant to awaken at a very late age, and to have these experiences at a very late age, because it's meant to be an example that this can be experienced at any time. The young people coming in are coming in at such a higher frequency. They don't have to go through an awakening the way that us older folks have to go through it. They're already finely tuned to these higher frequencies, and they have to go through very little adjustment to live their soul's purpose. And so we don't know what our soul's purpose is, and we stress about this our whole lives because we don't know. And the reason we don't know is because our soul can't show us that until we get to the point where we are ready to receive it. It's as simple as that, but we don't know that because we're so burdened with the 3D matrix and our beliefs and our pain and our loss of faith in our ability to live a joyful life. I get it. I lived it. I know. I relied on other people to show me the way. I was always looking outward for what's next for me. What should I be doing? Those questions persist your whole life, but you're never going to know what your true purpose is until you let all that go. You have to truly let everything go. You have to let everything that you think you know go and surrender to your higher self. Surrender to your intuitive channel. And in order to really get there, you have to let go of everything that you're gripping onto with white knuckles. And this took me so long to get here. But now that I'm here in this open, vast space where anything is possible, where the quantum field is ready to collapse, wave into matter at my will, I'm really understanding how much this perspective, this perception of the world or of the universe, of the quantum field, is reliant or contingent on my resonance, the resonance in my body. So, when I get burdened with other people's shit, or I go into dark thoughts, or I entertain anything that I used to be in my life as a viable option, which is not really possible anymore, I lose that connection. That's how refined or finite it is. And something happened to me recently that really helped me to understand this. And I'm not sure which direction I want to go. Which way are we going? Okay, we're going to go the magic first. The magic first. This is just an incredible thing and that I'm discovering about myself now. And I've been told over time that I have a very unique connection to Mother Gaia, that I am working with her, basically. She's working through me. And I didn't know what that meant. I had no idea. I heard this for a long, long time, that I have a soul contract with Mother Gaia and the elements, and that we are working together. I'm like, okay, that's beautiful. I don't know. I haven't witnessed that yet. I don't know what that means. And it's starting to come into my awareness, or starting to appear in my life, and it's absolutely magical. And it's funny, something I spoke about a couple episodes ago is going to come up again, because I didn't fully understand what was happening. I spend a lot of time at the park. I go to, it's interesting where my soul put me during this transitional phase, which is 4.5 years now that I've been in isolation. I've had some interaction with people, of course, but in the last year especially, I've been almost entirely alone. And this has been such a magical time, because when you remove all external influences, you go through a bunch of different phases, don't get me wrong, where you don't know where you're going. You really don't. And you have to just surrender to your oversoul and to the guides around you, and let them guide you, because they do. They absolutely guide you. You don't have to listen to tarot messages. You don't have to do that. You can just be resonant in your own body. I am on a particular mission that requires a lot of guidance, and I have a very big team around me. And I am listening to the tarot again, and I'll go really off subject for a second here to explain this. Probably about 4 or 5 weeks ago, I decided to go off of the tarot. I didn't want to listen to messages anymore. I had, to be quite honest, I saw something that I didn't like regarding my twin flame, and it shocked me, and I didn't know what to do about it. It was basically, I saw something about him in his life that made me think he turned away from the connection. So this has happened to me 3 times already. The false twin and 2 subsequent soulmates who were supposed to come into my life, who didn't, because they were part of a distraction, which I now understand, and I spoke about at length in past episodes. So I've been seeing my twin flame in my social media, primarily my YouTube channel, up until then every day. And I always said, as long as I see him and I feel this connection with him, which I absolutely did, I will continue investing in this connection, even though I don't know where he is in his world or what he's doing or anything like that, or if he's even coming. So I was engaged. I was going into the tarot twice a day at that point, during the afternoon on my PC and in the evening on my phone. And I got to the point where I just was really kind of, and like I said in the episode, I had all the information I felt like I needed. I had done this before, the previous time that I was viewing the tarot in the beginning, where I said I was done. I was off it for a year, then it came back. I described all that before, but I said I'm done. I'd really like to not see the messages anymore. But what had really happened, I didn't even acknowledge it in the moment when I asked for the messages to end, was I saw an image of my, it was on my YouTube channel. I saw an image of my twin flame that made me think that the connection was over, that this wasn't happening. And so my heart sank, and I said, okay, well, I guess another one bites the dust. And I just accepted that it wasn't going to happen. And I think it was out of that frustration, really, that I said, I'm kind of done with the readings. I don't want to see anything anymore that I don't need to see. I want to wait for it to just come into my life. Until it arrives, it really isn't real. So the readings are important because they help me understand what's coming and who I am. And they have had an extraordinary effect on my ability to accept and embrace and expand into this extraordinary divine energy that I am. But I got to a point where I'm like, you know what? I've seen enough. I don't need to see him anymore. I don't need to see it. I kind of was frustrated, and I didn't really acknowledge that frustration at the time. So I had gone off the tarot before I recorded that episode. I did the episode. Then I said, okay, to my spirit guides, I need to go into YouTube. I don't want to see messages. So can you, I'm going to hide. I actually literally opened it on my PC and covered with my hand, what I might see, because the entire panel of suggested for you are readings. So I went into YouTube to upload it, and I clicked on the YouTube channel or the icon. It opened, and there was nothing there at all. There was just advertisements and everything. And I'm like, okay, cool. This is awesome. But what I realized was my spirit guides actually logged me into a dummy account that I have because the algorithms, and it took more than one day to clear out all the readings. They just opened my old account. And then once I was in my studio, which is where I post, I was able to go back to my other account, the one where all of my actual episodes are posted, without having to see the suggested for you, which is how my spirit guides kept me from seeing any readings that might have been there. And I didn't look at my phone at night, and for 3 weeks, I didn't see anything. However, I did look at a different video one evening, a couple weeks later, on my phone in the evening, and I noticed in the background, or when I opened the YouTube on my phone, that there was a reading right there, and I said, oh, maybe I need to open and close it in order to clear the algorithm. So I closed it out, and I didn't go back to it for a couple of nights. I opened it again for another reason, and the reading was there again. And I thought, okay, why are these still here? I went to my PC the next day, and it was opened my channel, the same channel, no readings. It's all advertisements and random stuff that I never look at. I don't touch any of it. During that 3-week time period, I was on Yahoo, and I was researching something entirely different. And when I opened Yahoo on my PC, right smack in the middle was an article about my twin flame. And I thought, I was frustrated and annoyed. I said out loud, why am I seeing him? Why is he in my, right in front of me now on Yahoo, which is just the browser? And the article was about something that made me sure that he had turned away. I said out loud, why am I seeing this? Why are you showing me this? And I looked down at the clock on my PC, and it was 444, which meant the angels were showing me this. This was an angel message. And I said, okay, why are you showing me? And I got frustrated and even annoyed. I said, why do I need to see this? And I didn't realize I was already a little frustrated by the last image I saw of him on YouTube, which caused me to say, can you please end the messages? I don't need any of them anymore. I'm good. I didn't realize that I was really frustrated and even hurt by what I saw. But after I saw that, and then the 444, I sat there and I said, oh, you're telling me he's turned away. I said, that's what you're showing me, that he's turned away. Okay, thank you for letting me know, because now I'm not looking at the tarot. It's during that 3-week period where I wasn't looking at it. I realized the angels were telling me he's not coming. And I said, okay, I got it. Okay, I got it. He's not coming. Okay, it is what it is. What am I going to do? So I really tried to let it go, and I went through an extraordinary experience for 3 days, or 2 days, I think it was. I was talking to my daughter. I said, my twin flame is not coming, par for the course, here we go. I'm just meant to go on alone. That's fine. It's no big deal. It is what it is. I let the idea of my first twin flame go. I let the 2 subsequent goes, whatever. Let's keep moving. But what happened the next morning is I woke up and I felt this real heaviness in my body, and I said, what is this heaviness? And I came downstairs and I got my morning going, and I ended up sitting on the couch, and I laid back and I thought, what am I feeling? Why do I feel so heavy? And I was, of course, I knew it was associated with the end of this connection. And I realized what was happening is I was feeling grief. And I thought, I've never felt this before. For someone I never met, who I had an energetic connection with, but I've never felt this way before. And I realized that I was grieving, and I got frustrated. And within about 5-10 minutes, I started talking to my spirit guides and expressing my disappointment. I said to the higher self of this person, I said, why would you show me this person for 3-4 weeks straight, solid, having me engage with this connection energetically, and then you just, you tell me he's gone. You just basically dangle him in front of me and then pull him away. And I got really mad. And this was the first time I ever got really frustrated and angry with my guides. And it was with the higher self of this person who I knew was with me. And I had some experiences with the higher self that I hadn't talked about. I knew that he was with me. He's working with my higher self, orchestrating this reunion of my twin flame and I. They've been working diligently on this. So I said, why the F would you engage me so powerfully for 3-4 weeks now, where I've seen his image every day? I'm encouraged to lean into the connection because I'm helping to bridge it and all these things. And then you just take him away. You just show me, oh, he's gone. And I was upset, and I was very upset. I was angry, and I went through this whole range of emotions, which was like the, I don't know how many stages of grief there are, where I went through, like, within 20-30 minutes on my couch, just all this anger and frustration, and I was grieving. And I said, my gosh, what is going on with me? I just had no idea that I was so upset about this disconnection. And that day, I went to the park, and that day I went to the park, and I was sitting with it, and I started to think about, and this is going to connect you if you watch the last episode, which is called Wake Up Neo. I started to think about a post that I saw the day before about NPCs, and I started to connect the dots about my own relationship of 25 years, who I believe was with an NPC, and then I started to have a realization about, by the time I got home and in my house, and I didn't talk about this in the last episode, I had a realization that the angels showed me what I thought was my twin flame turning away from me, because I was meant to engage anyway. It was, no, we're not showing you he left, we're showing you he needs help. And I didn't understand that in the moment. My ego said, okay, he's not coming. I shut off. I don't want to chase someone who's not, chasing me back or whatever. I just disconnected. This is so interesting. But I stood in my kitchen and I realized that he needs help. And this is what spawned the energy and the inspiration for the last episode, Wake Up Neo. I didn't talk about that, but that's what happened. I realized that the angels showed me the post that I thought meant that he turned away from the connection, because if you saw the headline, you would have thought it too. But I realized in that moment, no, they showed me that because he needs help. And that's why I did the episode and everything that I had done. Well, after that, was it after that I saw that? After I did the episode, yes. Because while I was doing that episode, Wake Up Neo, which was the last one, number 63, I thought he turned away. I was in an energy that I thought he turned away, and what I was doing was what the angels and his higher self were encouraging me or urging me to do, was do that episode to talk about the matrix and all the stuff as a siren call to my twin flame. Basically to wake him up, which is why I ended up calling it Wake Up Neo. It was just an extraordinary thing that had happened, and I didn't say that expressly because you have to understand, I channel these episodes, and this has been made very clear to me, even a message I received last night, that when I speak, I mostly channel. I say what people are meant to hear. And I received this is another extraordinary thing that I didn't talk about. I received a post through Instagram talking about the divine flame connection and how it works, and I didn't know any of this. I thought, I wake up, he wakes up, we come together, and we have this blissful reunion. It's not how it works. And this really helped ease my mind about the fact that I thought he turned away, and why am I still in this if he turned away, was because the message basically said that the feminine awakens first in the divine masculine, divine feminine dynamic of twin flames, specifically twin flames. This is a very powerful connection. I thought I was going to talk about something completely different today, but I told the angels, just talk about what you want me. And here we go. So the message basically said that the divine feminine wakes up first, and she sends out a siren call to the divine masculine. The divine masculine, who's still asleep in the matrix, ignores the call as long as he can, because he can't disconnect from the matrix. So he ignores the call. This is essentially the divine feminine making the first move, waking up the masculine, which is what that whole episode was about. And I did not realize it at the time. I got this post afterwards. Again, I still feel like that he turned away. I didn't understand any of this was happening. I receive information through my social media that is relevant to what's going on in my life at that moment. This is how my guidance comes. So I was being reassured after I posted that episode that yes, you are sending out a siren call to your twin flame. That's why I did the episode. And I thought, holy shit, okay. So basically what it said beyond that is when the masculine receives the call, the siren call, he turns away initially. He doesn't understand what's happening. He wants to go back into the matrix, which is his reality. He doesn't know anything else. He's still asleep, just like I was. But I'm calling to him now. I'm knocking on his spiritual door and saying it's time to wake up, which was literally the name of the episode. And then what happens is once the divine masculine, who is my twin, turns towards the connection, he has to go through an accelerated healing or ascension. And basically he looks to the feminine to mirror what she has done to go in to heal. So where I believe the masculine is now, or my twin flame is now, is he is mirroring what I went through. He is going through an accelerated awakening. So if I am imagining what's happening to him right now through what I understand is happening in our dynamic as twin flames, he is going through a powerful release. And when I was guided back to the Tarot about 3 weeks after I had left them, and this was after I did this episode. You have to understand, I did this episode, 3 weeks ago, 2.5 weeks ago now. It's today's October 16th, 2025. I did that episode on September 28th. I believe. So what is that? I don't know, 18, 17 days, something like that, ago that I did that episode. I still wasn't viewing the tarot. I had no idea that all I knew was that he turned away and that I was being inspired or compelled to do that episode, Wake Up Neo, as a siren call to my divine masculine to wake him up and to send him into his awakening, basically. And so I went into, I was guided back into the Tarot probably 4 or 5 days after I did that episode. And when I went back in and looked the second time, what I saw was a reel, just an image or a preview of a reel of my twin flame that very, very clearly told me that he did not turn away, at least not in the way that I thought, that he was not... how do I put this? That it gave me faith that he didn't turn away. Let me just put it that way. I really didn't know anything other than that. And what was happening was the higher self of my twin flame compelled me to go back in to look at the Tarot, which they kept on my phone, but not on my PC. I'm not sure how they do this, but when I go onto my computer and open up my account, there's no messages at all. It's completely disconnected from everything that I was looking at. Nothing I would look at all. But when I open my phone, which is also the same account, all the messages are still there, hundreds at a time. And on this evening, which was 3 or 4, maybe 5 days after I did that episode, I think it was a Friday, maybe a Thursday, I don't remember exactly. I actually screenshotted what I saw so I could look at that date and tell, but it was a few days after I did that episode that I saw an image of my twin flame that just totally removed that whole idea that he was no longer connected to me. And mind you, I still felt connected to him. I did not feel a disconnection at all. But from what I saw on the Yahoo article preview, I assumed he had. I did not click open the article to see. If I would have clicked open the article to see, I would have seen that the article, the preview was not what I thought it was. So, but I didn't look at it. And my spirit guides knew I wouldn't look at it. All I needed to see when I looked at that Yahoo post, that article, was that he turned away 444 on my clock, which told me the angels were telling me. Intuitively, I knew, okay, he turned away. That's what you're showing me. Oh, well, here we go again. Went about my day. The next day I woke up upset, frustrated, angry. I was so mad. I was screaming at my spirit guides in anger. I'm like, what the why did you connect me with this person if I wasn't coming into union with him? This is cruel. I went to the park that afternoon, had an epiphany about NPCs and how I lived with one for 25 years. By the time I got home with that realization, I'm standing in my kitchen, I put my hand on my chest. I said, oh my gosh, what you're doing, you're not telling me he turned away. You're telling me he needs help. I just intuitively knew. It is an instantaneous knowing that you can't question. It's just something you know. And that's what spawned the energy, which was, would describe as I was compelled to do the episode Wake Up Neo, which turned out to be a siren call to my twin flame, which I was told in the tarot just a couple of nights ago that something massive has shifted in his world. Something massive has shifted in his perspective that has turned him into this time of healing, that he is releasing and purging and going through this incredible accelerated awakening, because he can't come in to this union as his old self. He may even want to. He may even want to connect with me. Maybe during the last several weeks since he's known about me, maybe he has wanted to connect with me, but his higher self won't let him until he releases whatever in his life he needs to release in order to be at the frequency he needs to be to connect in this union. I'm not saying he's going to be completely healed. The twin flames heal each other. This is something that I've known all along. When we come into union, we are encoded with exact imprints in each other's energetic physiology that activate the other person. That's why the twin flame connection has to come in the physical eventually. It can exist in the ethereal. Our higher selves are already together, working together. But in order, when we come together in the physical, which is why it's so important, we carry codes that awaken each other's dormancies and heal each other at a depth we cannot heal ourselves. So there's healing still in my body that has to be done, but can only be activated by my twin flame and vice versa. So he's not going to be perfect when he comes in, but he will be at the frequency he needs to be in order to connect in this union without self-sabotaging or running away because it's too intense. So he can't just come in the old version that was trapped in the 3D matrix, who may be in a connection or may have things in his life that need to be released. That all has to happen. So I was told a couple of nights ago that he has had a massive shift, which I can imagine may have had something to do with the episode, which was the siren call that the feminine makes to the masculine. I was aware that I was doing this in an episode or two previous. I thought I'd done it already. But when the angels showed me this article on Yahoo and that it was 444, my initial egoic response was, oh, he turned away. He's not coming. The intensity is too much. He wants to stay in the matrix. Fine, that's going to happen. It has happened a lot, actually, with the divine masculines in this era. We're leaving a toxic masculine era. A lot of divine masculines are not waking up to their divine feminines. So because I knew all this, I thought, well, maybe this isn't happening. My ego said, let go, yada, yada. I told you the rest of it. That afternoon, after that purge, I had the realization about NPCs in my own life. I thought, oh my gosh, it's not, he needs help, which I was absolutely compelled to do that episode. Another thing that I learned, which was so interesting about this, is that, and this is going to be maybe a little anecdote, maybe something that is comical to I don't know, I find it very fun. I have a very, very strong connection with the angelic realm. I've known this for a while because I have an angelic origin, so does my twin flame. We are angelic souls. And we need to normalize this because that's a whole nother subject matter. Okay. When I was going through the false twin shit that I had to go through for 3.5 years, what I realized that the person who I thought was my twin flame was not at all, and was being used by dark forces to distract me from my actual twin flame, who is the one that I am working towards now. I sat down at the park one day and I said to Archangel Michael, who I know is assigned to me and to my twin flame, he is working personally to orchestrate this reunion. After the twin flame debacle, before I knew about my current twin flame, the actual original twin flame, I said to him at the park, I said, listen, Archangel Michael, can you just come and be my boyfriend? Can you just come and soul swap with somebody with a kind heart and just be my boyfriend, be my twin flame, so we can do this mission and do what we came here to do? And I just kind of giggled about it. I thought about it later and I said, I don't think twin flames incarnate, because I'm sorry, I don't think archangels can incarnate. I think that they are made from source energy. They're not created by gods in their image like we are, like humans are. They are from source energy, from source consciousness. They don't have to incarnate. They are pure consciousness. And the archangels actually protect the earth realm. I talked about a coronation that I was exposed to that helped me understand that the divine visitation that I had, if you saw that episode, I can't remember what it's called, I had a divine visitation from Archangel Michael. I described it in detail, what I went through. And after that happened, I felt even more intimate or close to Archangel Michael. And I talk to him all the time. Archangel Michael is the one we speak to when we want to remove karmic connections. We want to remove siphons from our energy, which I've had to do over and over because of people siphoning my energy from a distance, psychic attacks, all that stuff. I ask Archangel Michael often, can you please clear any siphons to my energy, any cords that are connected to me that I'm unaware of, so I can be sovereign in my energy and keep expanding and not be drained by psychic attacks, which is how that works. So Archangel Michael and I have been working very closely for a long time. So I joked, well, why don't you just come and be my boyfriend? We'll just be twin flames and we'll get the mission done, and then we'll go home and have a beer and talk about it. I don't drink. I don't know why I said a beer. We'll have a sparkling water and talk about it, laugh about it. Well, I let it go, of course, but it's always kind of been a fun thing that I thought about. And I received a post probably 4 or 5 days ago. And again, I don't receive anything that isn't relevant to my journey. This is how powerful my guidance is. And why I was drawn back to the tarot, because I'm viewing it again each night, and I'm learning more about my mission that I didn't know before. So the guides were like, okay, well, clear your tarot on your PC because you're mad right now. But the messages are going to be on your phone because you need to look. This is still our guidance. You can't disconnect from it. So funny. So I received this was an Instagram post, though, 3 or 4 days ago, about archangels and how they can incarnate when they want to. And I just got a giggle. I said, oh my gosh, how funny that they can incarnate. And it was about Enoch, who is, I'm not sure his stories in the Bible. I'm not familiar with the Bible. I've never read it. I never had any connection to religion or the church or anything like that. I've always kind of been repelled by it, and of course there's a good reason. But anyway, I don't know who Enoch is, but it was about Enoch and an archangel. I'm not sure what the story was, but that it said very specifically that archangels can incarnate when they want to. And I just thought that was funny. Well, a couple of days later, which was the day before yesterday, I was at the park, and another magical thing happened, which I'll talk about next. Oh my gosh, it's already okay. I received a tarot message the night before that said that the chosen one was found. That basically my twin flame was found, and that this special soul has been chosen to come into union with me because of his star lineage, which is separate from mine. Now you have to understand how this works, how the guidance works. I am meant to know what I'm meant to know in the moment. That may not remain true. And what I'm going to tell you in a few minutes will explain that further. So I have to let go of labels, basically. My twin flame has been described as my twin flame. He is my twin soul, but that may not necessarily be true. What I am learning now is that this man may embody a star lineage that is not my star lineage. And what this very short tarot reading said, it was actually a channeled message from the angels through Freya Ray, who I've talked about before, and I've put her name in the description box. Freya Ray channels the angels. The angels and I are working very closely together, as is my twin flame. Basically, the message said that the angels found the soul that they want to connect with me, that they want me to come into union with. And this is not a classic twin flame soul, although we are technically twin flames. It doesn't change that. But that this this chosen one who's going to come into union with me, because this is what the angels are and our ancestors are orchestrating, is a chosen one from a star lineage, another really powerful star lineage. Now, my star lineage are the Pleiadians, as far as I know. I have lifetimes on Mentaka and in other star systems, I'm sure, but primarily I'm known for or being reminded of my Pleiadian ancestry, which is primarily what I talk about. There are others, I'm sure, but I don't know of them. So I'm being told in this message that there's a divine being who's been chosen to come into union with me, who is from another really powerful star lineage. And the purpose of this chosen one coming in is to mix these two star lineages on Earth. And I thought, okay, what's going on now? What's going on now? As with everything, I don't write it down. I don't try to remember it. If it resonates, it'll come back later into my awareness. This is what has freed me from having to worry about, well, should I study for this? What am I supposed to know? I don't have to know anything. It comes through me when I need to know it, period. Or it comes to me through a message. So I'm at the park the next morning, and I'm sitting by the river, and it comes up into my awareness, mixing star lineages. What does this mean? Who is this other star person? And I started to have a knowing, and this, all I can say is it's a knowing. I don't know how I know it. I just know it. This is what clear cognizance is. I don't know why I can't say that word all of a sudden. Anyway. So I'm sitting there, and I had a realization, and I said, oh my gosh, Archangel Michael's coming. This is just something that I knew, and you can laugh. I laughed. I'm still laughing. It's comical. It's so fun to live in this magical energy. This is what I was saying in the beginning, where anything is possible, where a unicorn can be in my backyard eating dandelions, and I wouldn't think twice about it. Where a spaceship can come in my backyard and open the door and say, it's time to go, Sophia. And I would say, hold on, let me grab my jacket. And I would go in the backyard, hop on the ship, and go wherever they're taking me. It feels like it could happen. This is how magical my existence has become. So of course this is going to come into my awareness because I am able to receive it. This is the key. This is the trick to divine majesty, really. The quantum field tells you anything's possible, but it needs the right frequency in order to collapse that into reality. So I'm thinking, I'm open to this, of course, because I know anything is possible. I'm an internal being, a divinely magical, powerful, ancient, angelic, eternal being. I know anything's possible. So of course, Archangel Michael is coming in to be my twin flame. And I giggled about it, but I knew there was something in it. And I even said out loud, Archangel Michael, I don't know if all this is true, but I think conceptually I understand what you're telling me. Well, to further validate this, which is so much fun, and my twin flame will get a kick out of this possibly, well, definitely when he knows about this, because this will resonate with something in his life that is current. But this is so fun. Oh my gosh. I received a message, it was the night before last, in the Tarot. It was about the twin flame union that I was very drawn to look at. And I don't really look at a lot of these because I don't want to peek in on him all the time, because they can be very specific about what he's going through. This is why I know what I know. So in this message, it talked about how the masculine has gone through a massive shift. This was 2 nights ago. A massive shift in his perspective, in his energy. And I instantaneously thought maybe it was a siren call, maybe it was the episode. I don't know that for sure. but that he's going through this purging or releasing process, and he is getting ready to, or being prepared to come into union with me. I don't know when this is going to be. I gotta let go of all of that. It may be tomorrow, it may be a month, it may be, who knows how long it's going to be. But what this young lady said, and this is a new reader I haven't talked about, her channel is Gypsy Cowgirl Tarot, Gypsy Cowgirl Tarot. And I'll put her name along with Freya's in the description box on YouTube and on my Buzzsprout channel, which is the only two places I can attach information. And she said in the message, she said, she paused for a second and she said, Archangel Michael is personally preparing this divine masculine to come in, is what she said. And I just sat there with my jaw hit the floor. I'm like, holy shit. So what I believe, and this, you have to understand, this is the magical quality of my existence, and I have to say what I feel. And I've been urged over and over again, you have to be, don't hide it, don't dim it because you're worried other people can't receive it. I can't worry about that. If you receive it, you're meant to receive it. If you don't, you aren't. That's it. My job is not to filter what I say to provide comfort to those who might be listening, which is how I lived my life for 58 years before this. My job now is to channel directly what the angels are telling me to say, or channeling through me. And I had no idea I was going to talk about any of this. I had a whole other subject matter planned, which I don't think I'm going to get to because it's, we'll see. So she said in this message, and I saved this reading because I was so enchanted by it. She said that Archangel Michael is working personally to prepare this masculine to come into union with you, divine feminine. And I knew, and I know that 90% of the readings that I view are 100% for me. And the only reason I know this is because I know that my mission is multi-layered. I'm not a regular light worker, and not that there's nothing wrong with that at all. I don't have a specific task that I'm here to do, which is to seed light. I have a lot of different things that I'm accomplishing on this journey, which is my last hurrah, my last lifetime. This was a volunteer lifetime. I'm not coming back. And I saw something yesterday that said, starseeds don't fear death. They fear reincarnation. And this resonated so powerfully. I laughed out loud. I said, yes, it's exactly right. I don't want to come back. So I don't want to get trapped in any of the loops that are in the compromise matrix that I talked about at length in the last episode, Wake Up Neo, because I don't want to come back unintentionally because this is not easy to be here. Our lifetimes are very difficult, and they are difficult for a reason, but they're made exponentially more difficult and even impossible to evolve by the beings who have darkened the matrix and turned it into basically a soul essence harvesting machine. So when I heard this young lady, her name's Erica, channel that my twin flame, my divine masculine, was being prepared personally by Archangel Michael, I knew that that meant that Archangel Michael, I don't believe he can soul swap, so don't worry about that. I don't think that's what's happened at all. What I knew intuitively that was happening from something I had learned from something disconnected previously was that actually it was Daryl Anka and Bashar. He channels an alien, a gray alien named Bashar, where he said in a documentary that I watched about Daryl Anka and Bashar, which is very interesting. It's on YouTube. It's called First Contact. I was drawn to watch it recently, where he said that Bashar, who is a gray alien, can only embody himself about up to 5% into Daryl's body. That's all the energy that Daryl can manage in the capacity of his human form. That's how much of our divine essence we don't take into this body, just so you know, and why awakening is so difficult, because we are only a fragment of ourselves. We're a projection of our divine self in this form. So he basically said that because Daryl is designed, he had a soul contract with Bashar to come in and do this channeling for him, designed for this, that he can take up to 5% of Bashar's energy, but no more. So what I intuited from what I now understood was that Archangel was infusing my twin flame with his essence or his codes. I know that I carry the blueprint of Christ. This is the Christic blueprint. And Mary Magdalene. This is part of my journey. I've been made very aware of this. I don't think I've talked about this specifically, but I'm basically, my energy or my template is a copy of Christ and Mary Magdalene. So what I'm doing in the world is an extension of what they did in the world or would do in a reincarnation, but I'm not the reincarnation of Christ. That's not what this is. It is basically I carry his template, and others like me do as well, and Mother Mary Magdalene, as well as my ancestors who are very powerful Egyptian gods and goddesses, and Pleiadians, of course. So, well, I'm a Pleiadian, so that would be me. So I knew this meant that this wasn't a soul swap, because that's not how this works, but that my divine masculine was being infused or imprinted with the codes from Archangel Michael. And what this will do for my divine masculine, which will basically accentuate in a way that is not naturally possible, his accelerated awakening. It will place in the body of my twin divine codes from an archangel that he can utilize to come into union with me and then to grow into his divine self, which again, him and I carry codes for each other. So I am designed to awaken him. He's designed to awaken me in ways that we cannot awaken ourselves. This is why the divine union is so important. And I tried to resist this for a long time, especially after the false twin. I'm like, let me just go ahead myself. I don't need a masculine. I'm good. My own divine masculine is very well developed. It's in very well balanced. It's in perfect balance with my feminine. I can do this myself. I resisted even the connection with my new divine twin. When I saw him, my response was, okay, fine. I see him. If he comes in, great. If he doesn't, I'm good. I even said that on air. I don't need this connection. I can do this myself. Yes, I can. But I will never be able to reach the highest version of myself without him. He will never be able to reach the highest version of himself without me. That's why we're twins. And anyone who's a twin knows this. And of course, I'm not a twin physically, so I didn't understand any of this. I'm not 100% without him. He's not 100% without me. I cannot go on without him. He is an integral part of the divine journey that I'm on. And the way this was described to me again was, and actually I'll post this. I just looked at it this morning. I was just guided back to it about twin flames and what they're doing here in the matrix, and I will post it. And basically, the twin flames, once they are together, have the power to break the matrix apart. That's why this union is so important, and why I resisted it, because I thought, well, I'm powerful enough on my own, let me just go. And they're like, no, we have to get your twin online. He needs to come in too. He's as important as you are. The divine feminine is the intuitor. I intuit the new world, but the divine masculine is pure consciousness. He anchors my vision. He protects the vision. That's why the more traditional roles, and forgive me, I'm going to go back here just for a moment, are so important when you're thinking about twin flames. She is the mother, he is the father. She's the intuitor, he's the protector. It's not a 1950s version of man-woman where she cooks and he goes to work. It's not that at all. It is the divine feminine has to surrender to the magistry of the divine masculine's ability to anchor and protect her, while she goes into a trance and into the higher realms and draws into the new world. That's how this has been described. So I can't go on without him. He will never reach his highest version without me. That's why we came in together. That's why we're twins. So this is what I learned. This is what I now understand to be true. And this whole joke I had with Archangel Michael about being my boyfriend is actually, in essence, happening. So my twin flame is being infused with the energy of an archangel, a very powerful archangel who is working very closely. I've been told that archangel has been assigned to me in my twin flame. This was a while ago, that he's watching over the union, he's orchestrating it, as well as protecting us from dark forces, protecting our families as well. So Archangel and I have a very close relationship, and we he's going to be my boyfriend in essence, which is so fun. Oh my gosh. Okay. So I started talking about the magical elements of my existence, and I think I want to end with this. The magic that is emerging in my body, my connection to Mother Gaia, my contract with Mother Gaia, what I'm doing here, is I was at the park, this was probably about 3 weeks ago now, sitting at the lake. I'm very fortunate that I was placed in a house that is literally 10 minutes from a lake or a river, depending on which way I turn when I leave my area. And this was, of course, by design, because in this transitional phase, I need natural green spaces in order for me to calibrate, to remain in this growth period, and to transmute energy that I need to get rid of. I do it in nature, like a tree does it. So I'm sitting at the lake, and I'll be quick here, because I know this is getting long, my God. I was told very early on that I transmute negative energy. That's one of my gifts. That I alchemize energy. That I turn negative energy into positive energy. That I turn darkness into light. It's one of my gifts. It's what I did with my own life. The darkness in my own life. I alchemized it. I didn't purge it necessarily. I turned it inward and into power. And I talked about this throughout the episodes and in my articles, if you're more interested in that. Or if you have questions, you can ask me as well. But I knew that I transmute negative energy. And my sister, who is also an angelic soul, who has passed away 5 years now, this is and really quickly, when I went on the 8-8 portal, went to a past life regression group, I said during that episode where I talked about it, that a young lady who was sitting near me had a vision for me, because I was unable to connect with my vision to see my spirit guide. She had a vision of a young woman dancing on a beach with sunglasses on. And I said, I just said, she goes, I think that was for you. And I said, okay, thank you. I didn't realize till I spoke to my daughter the next day, who intuitively or was channeled the message to me that said, Mom, that sounds like your sister. My sister lived in New Zealand on the water, on the ocean, and she passed away actually on the beach in the water. And so the vision that this young lady had at this group session was of my sister dancing on the beach with sunglasses on. My daughter said the next morning, Mom, I think that's your sister. And I said, oh my God, I just knew it was. My sister was also an angelic soul. She was also a Pleiadian. I didn't know her in real life. She was from my mother's first marriage, and there's a lot of bad blood between my father and the girls of my mother's first marriage, which I won't go into. I briefly spoke about. I didn't know my older sister. I'd only known her in my very, very early years. She left and went to England or Europe as a young woman. I talked about her in other episodes. She had a dinner theater with her husband there for years. She wrote a book called Shores of Grace by Stephanie Sinclair that I actually posted the link to in one of those episodes, where she talked about transmuting negative energy. She talked about something that happened to her when she was in New Zealand. This is before she moved to New Zealand. And this is where I thought I was going to be moving initially. Before she moved to New Zealand, she went to see a friend for their wedding. A friend of hers was getting married. And on that trip with her husband, they were driving in a rental car, and they were driving down a street, and somebody ran out in front of them, and they hit this person with their car and killed them. And my sister was distraught. She didn't know what had happened. It was a rural area. It's not like it was a busy city street. This person ran out in front of the car and was struck by their car and died. This is an extraordinary story that connects so deeply to what I'm doing, or what I think I might be doing, or what I don't know. I don't know. I think what I'm doing. But her angels or her guides, she had, I don't understand completely her connection, but the way she talks about her guides, who are ascended masters and spirit guides and angels, is that she's talking to them real time, is how she speaks about them. And again, I didn't know her, and I don't think that was an accident. She is 6 or 7 years older than I, from my mother's first marriage. I didn't know her as an adult at all. She didn't want any contact with us, and I understand completely why. She passed away 5 years ago, I think, at this point. She's one of my spirit guides. That was made very clear to me by that past life regression session, the vision the young lady had, my daughter saying, "That's your sister." I knew that. I had read this book previously, probably 6 months, 8 months before, where she described an episode where she was driving, hit somebody who ran out in front of their car. Her guides told her that that person purposely ran in front of her car, that wanted to be killed by her because he knew that she would transmute his karma for him. This person was living in a very rural area in New Zealand. This person was a transvestite. He was going through the surgical changes to become a woman. He had had breasts, but he still had his male genitalia. So when they discovered the body, she noticed when they were moving the body that it was a man who had women's breasts. And she said, what is all this about? And they said that he was living in such shame because he couldn't live as his true self. He was trying to go through the process of becoming female, that he was in such shame because his community couldn't accept him, that he committed suicide. But he did it with her because he knew at a soul level, his soul guided him to that she would transmute his karma. So basically what happened is, by dying at her hand or in front of her, in her presence, she took on all of his karma through her body, which is what she was designed to do, which is what I'm designed to do, and transmuted it out so it would dissipate and be gone. And this gentleman, this female, male, this transvestite or this transgender, I'm not sure what the right term is, forgive me if I said that wrong, person, this transgender person, can have a karmic reset. And what a karmic reset means is when this person incarnates again, they don't have to carry this karma with them. Normally, when you reincarnate, you have to relive the same lessons over and over and over until you learn them. And of course, the lesson for this person would have been self-acceptance, right? That's what we have to learn first and foremost, is self-acceptance, self-love, and then everything else expands and heals from that. So she described this in her book. If you want to read it, you can get the book, Shores of Grace by Stephanie Sinclair. She was a producer and a writer and an artist. And she lived her life with all of this. And anyway, I knew all this. So I also knew that I was called or referred to in the same way that I transmute negative energy of those around me. I had a panic attack on an airplane several years ago. I'd never had a panic attack before in my life. It was all I could do not to get off the plane. While it was taking off, I couldn't breathe. If you've had a panic attack, you know what it feels like. I've never had one before. This was probably, I was still with my ex-husband, my karmic ex-husband. We were taking a trip to Las Vegas to relax. I think I might have described this before. I did in the episode Fear, if you want to hear it, in the episode Fear. What I was told later was that when I had a panic attack, I was transmuting negative energy. I didn't know it then, but that's what happened. I've never had a panic attack since. So I know that I'm a transmuter of negative energy, and that's why I'm always told that I have to be outside in order to release the negative energy that I take in, either from a crowd of people, from a particular person, or from a being. So I know this about myself. So I'm at the park, the lake, 3 weeks ago. I'm sitting there drinking my mud water or my mushroom coffee, which is what I have every few days. And along comes a bee, flies onto my cup, and I'm like, it was a beautiful big bee, not a bumble, but I'm not sure what kind of bee. Almost looked like a hornet, but it wasn't. It was still a bee. And it landed on my cup, and I thought, you know what? I eat honey. You can have my drink. Go ahead. It's a fair trade-off. And I have a very deep connection with beings of all kinds, shapes, and sizes, and I don't do my best not to disrupt or injure anybody, to the point where I apologize to the earth for walking on it. I say, excuse me for my feet. I don't like to mow the lawn or pull weeds anymore. It's just this connection is deepened so much. But anyway, bee landed, stayed there for a good 20 minutes on my cup. So long, drinking whatever he could. I took the lid off in order to drink it because he was all over the lid. I'm like, I don't know what's on there. So the bee flew away finally. And I got up after a few minutes and I stretched my legs. I'm there about an hour. Stretched my legs, went over by the water, a little bit closer to the water. And as I was walking back towards my chair, the same bee, I believe, landed on my arm. And I had an orange t-shirt on. It was bright yellow. And I'm like, oh, hi. It's a bee. I've been stung before. I'm not allergic, but I didn't want to get stung again. So this bee lands on my arm, on my forearm. And I'm standing there. I kind of got stunned. And I said, oh, hi, buddy. You know, what are you doing? And he started crawling really quickly up my arm. And I'm like, oh, shit. So I took my shirt and I just went like this. And I knocked him onto the ground. And I said, sorry, buddy. I don't know if you're going to sting me. I don't want to let that happen. You were crawling up to my neck. So I walked back to my chair, which is 3 feet away, sat down in my chair, drinking my mud water and looking at the water. And once I sat down, I thought, you know what? Let me just check on him. And I went to look over to the bee, and he wasn't where he was. And I'm like, okay. So I sat back down, and literally within a minute, I noticed the bee was crawling in the grass right next to my chair. So he had walked 3 feet over to my chair, and he went right underneath the rung of my chair, which is a rocker, so the front leg is off the ground. So he just crawled right under it. So I stood up and I moved my chair over just enough to see the bee. So now he was right next to my foot. And I could see he wasn't doing well, that he was losing energy. So I sat with him and I said, oh, I'm sorry, buddy. It doesn't look like you feel well. I'm going to sit here with you. I just said, I'm going to sit here with you. If you need me, I'm right here. And I just sat there with him, and he moved around for a little bit, and then I noticed that he stopped moving. And I sat there for a good probably 2 minutes, 3 minutes, waiting for him to move again, and I just knew he had died. And I don't know why. I'm sure they have a lifespan, and maybe he stung someone, and I think they die after that. I don't know what happened exactly. But I just sat next to the bee, and I just sat there with my hands on my lap, and I said, I'm here with you, beautiful. I said, I'm here with you. If you need to let go, it's okay. I'm right here with you. So I intuitively knew that the bee walked over to be next to me because he wanted to be next to someone, I guess. So I just sat there with him, and I just sat quietly, and like with the energy, and I started to tear up, and then I started to cry, and before I knew it, I was just sobbing. And I was kind of amazed. I said, why am I crying? What is going on? And after about a minute or two, when I relaxed, I had tears streaming down my face. I said, oh my gosh, here's the intuitive feeling that I had, was that I transmuted the soul of the bee. And I just knew that's what had happened. And I knew that my higher self was showing me through my emotional reaction what was happening, that you are transmuting the soul of this little bee. And I say little bee, who knows what the being in that bee is? Who knows the caliber or the size of that being? We don't know. So I knew intuitively that I transmuted the karma or the soul of that little bee. But what was so interesting, and I still don't understand this part, is once I went through this little emotional event, which took probably about 5 minutes, I looked down and the bee was gone. He was nowhere to be seen. I'm like, oh, where'd he go? He was right next to my foot. And I knew he was gone. I knew he was. I didn't see him fly away. If he was crawling, I would see him somewhere. He was completely gone. So I don't understand that part at all. But what happened, I knew intuitively that I transmuted the soul of that bee. And I said out loud, okay, I get it. This is what I'm going to be doing. This is beautiful. It was such a beautiful feeling. And I, of course, released that energy because I'm a natural transmuter. I don't hold on to the energy, which would be dangerous for me, because that would embed in my body like my own karma. This is how empaths have to operate in the world. And this is what I started to say in the beginning, which is what I thought I'd talk about initially, is when you're highly empathetic, you draw negative energy or karmic energy or energy period from other people. It's just part of our sensory ability. We have sensory connection with it. So I can feel somebody else's mood, even if they say they're happy, I know they're not. I can feel someone else's soul. I can see into them. It's just something I've always been able to do. I wasn't comfortable with it before, but now I understand it. And this is what highly empathetic people do. You have to be empathetic in order to have extrasensory perception. Not necessarily ESP, but psychic connection to energy is what it is. And mine is growing exponentially every day. The claircognizance that I experience is part of that. Anyway, I talked about an encounter with a squirrel. 2 episodes ago when I talked about, the title was Detachment and a Spiritual Detox. I talked about a serendipitous encounter with a squirrel, and I almost called it fated in the description, but I said, no, that sounds weird. It's serendipitous. It was a serendipitous. But now I know it was fated, and here's why. I believe what happened with that squirrel was not just that squirrel teaching me that I had evolved as a human beyond the need for death to be the end, because that's why Spirit can now use me as a transmuter for death, because I know death is not the end. Death is just a transition between this experience, which is a virtual reality that the soul is having, and their actual reality, which is what they experience when they leave this reality, this incarnation, this body. So death, and I wrote an article about death too. This was years ago that I wrote this article. Anyway, that death is just a transition. It's not the end of anything. It's the end of this virtual reality. When you wake up from death, you are home. You look around and go, oh crap, that was a vivid dream. That's how this has been described. That's what I understand this to be. So that's why I don't fear death. I fear reincarnation. I don't want to come back here. But anyway, what I now understand happened was I facilitated the death of that squirrel because I'm able to transmute karma. So that squirrel waited for me, which was a fated connection. And I know this now. There's no way I don't know this. This is just something I know. When that squirrel ran under my tire, it wasn't just to teach me a lesson. It was for me to transmute the karma of that squirrel. And let me explain. Oh, this is amazing. And this is how I'm fed information. I get seeds that grow as awareness, that grow into an experience that I can share. That's why I call myself an experiential transducer. This is what my journey is, part of my purpose. I received an Instagram post 2 or 3 days ago. 3 days ago. It was a day before something else happened. And the post was basically, it was a gentleman who's a clairvoyant. And a clairvoyant can see energy. I'm unable yet to see energy, although I believe one day I will be able to see it. I'm not in the right environment for me to expand enough to embody these gifts yet, I believe. We'll see. But he basically had a plate of food in front of him. He had a piece of salmon, a steak, and a vegetable on the plate. And the animation was of a spirit of a cow, a spirit of a fish, and a spirit of a vegetable sitting on top of their counterparts on the plate. And the clairvoyant gentleman was saying that when you eat your food, you should bless your food with gratitude, with acknowledgement, with recognition, because that allows the spirit to be seen and acknowledged. And then with that blessing, when they reincarnate, can reincarnate at a higher frequency, as a higher frequency being. I was so fascinated by this, but I felt disconnected to the message because I'm like, okay, this is really cool information, but okay. I bless my food. Whenever I eat or drink, I say the same thing. I say, thank you, Mother Earth, and to all the elemental spirits for this gift of your body, of your essence, so I can live in this magnificent form every day. And when I drink water, I talk to the water. Because if you watch a movie on Gaia TV called, what was it called? The Secret of Water. There's a gentleman, scientist, who discovered that water responds to negative and positive energy. It crystallizes when it's happy. It breaks down and fragments when it's sad. And the joy of the water is integral for it to be hydrating to our body. Otherwise, we get dehydrated. So I talk to my water every time I drink it. I say thank you and that you're loved and you're safe and you can heal, because I know that the traveling water does through the pipes destroys its energy. And when we receive it out of our tap and even our filters, it is essentially dead. So what I say to my water is meant to enliven it, revive it. And when the water is revived, it's joyful. When water is joyful, it actually hydrates my body as a structured element instead of a dead, lifeless essence I'm putting in my body, which is why we die of dehydration and not old age. So I speak to my water, I speak to my food, I do that anyway. I'm like, oh cool, this is a confirmation. I didn't know the part though about the acknowledgement allowing the spirit to reincarnate at a higher frequency. This is something so interesting, and this is something somebody I care deeply about said recently. They said in an epiphany that you don't exist until you're seen. And it really is kind of the truth. And this is why human connection is so important and why we're meant to grow up in communities and not be individuals. And there's a whole other subject matter there. The reason I told you this is because the next day I went to the river. Now I have the lake on one side, the river on the other, and I go almost every morning, depending on the weather. I went to the river and I'm sitting at the river in my chair with my little pink stool. I have those little collapsible pink stools. They're all over the department stores. They come in blue and pink and whatever. They're little footstools that collapse. You can carry them around. I have one in my truck with my little rocking chair that I put out, and I sit in my chair and I put my coffee on my stool, and I take my shoes off and I sit with the earth for up to an hour every day. At the river, which is a couple mornings ago, 2 mornings ago, this is such a beautiful experience. I am sitting there minding my own business. And I noticed out of the corner of my eye something black on my lap. And I'm like, I looked down really quickly, and the little black thing jumped onto my other leg, and I, out of a startled reaction, stood up and I knocked him off of my lap. And it was a spider. It was a pretty good sized spider too. A very chunky little spider. And I'm not generally afraid of insects, although I am aware that some spider bites are poisonous, and I don't really know anything about them. So my first reaction is to get him off of me, just like with the bee. So the spider jumps on my lap, I knock him off, and he hits the ground, a little tiny thing, and I said, "Oh, I'm sorry, buddy. You just startled me. I don't know if you're dangerous or not, but I was just startled, so forgive me for knocking you off." And this is how I talk to everything. So I picked up my chair and I walked 3 feet away, and I put my chair down, got my stool, put it in front of my chair, 3 feet away from the spider on the ground because I didn't want to accidentally step on him or put my chair on him. 3 feet away. So literally within a minute or two, probably 2 minutes, not to exaggerate, 2 to 3 minutes, I'm sitting there with my bare feet, and I look down and that flippin' spider's on my lap again. He's right on my lap. And I'm like, how did you even get here? It was the same spider. I took a picture of this spider, and if I am able to post the image of him in the description box, which I don't know if you can on YouTube or not, or on Buzzsprout, I will. It's just fascinating, this little spider. I've never seen one exactly like it. He was substantial in size, not huge, but about that big, very chunky and fuzzy. And I just instantaneously felt a connection with him. So he's sitting on my lap. I wasn't startled this time, so I didn't knock him off. He just sat on my lap. And I looked down at him and I said, "Oh, hi, buddy. Hi, beautiful. How are you?" I said, "Thank you for visiting. Oh my gosh, I didn't realize you'd come all the way back." Literally crawled 3 feet to come back and went right back on my lap. And as I was speaking to him, his little head turned up to me and he was looking in my eyes. I am not shitting you. He was looking right into my eyes, and I was overwhelmed with a feeling of love. And I just said, I almost teared up. I said, "Oh my gosh, hi, sweetheart." I've said, "Obviously you wanted to meet me because you walked all the way back over here." So I let him sit on my lap. I let him move around. I let go of my fear of what might happen. And he walked around on my leg for maybe another 30, 40 seconds or so. And I just spoke to him. I said, "Hi, I see you, beautiful." I said, "What are you doing? What's up? Thanks for visiting." And it was the sweetest moment. And he crawled around on my leg, and I finally took a picture of him while he was on the side of my leg. I thought it was rude to take a picture while he was looking up at me because I didn't want to be rude. I don't know. So he crawled down my leg, and when he got to my kneecap, I took a picture of him so you can see him. And he's looking at me as I take the picture. His face is extraordinary. He crawled down my leg, and I still wasn't sure that he was going to crawl on my foot because he was going to maybe bite me. So I kind of guided him down my leg, and he went off of my leg and onto the grass and right onto the pink stool that I had my coffee on. And I just watched him crawl around, and he crawled all around the stool, and I just kind of marveled at how cute he was. I said, "Okay, buddy, I got to go." I had been there in over an hour, and I had to leave. So I tried to get him off the stool, and he wouldn't leave. I turned the stool over, and he crawled on the other side. I turned the stool over again. He crawled on the other side. And I said, I didn't want to violently shake him off because he had already fallen. I just didn't feel like I needed to do that. I said, "Okay, buddy." I put the stool down. I took my chair and my coffee, and I walked over to my truck. I put it in the back of my truck, and I put my coffee in. I walked back. And now it's just a stool sitting there. And I actually took a picture of the spider on my stool because he was still on it. I said, "What are you doing? Why are you still here?" Now at this point, he's probably been with me a good 10 minutes. I said, "Are we done yet? Is there something else that you need? I mean, I love you. I see you. You're beautiful. What else can I do for you?" And I said, after another minute or so, standing there now, I said, okay, I got to let you go. So I turned the stool over, and he crawled back underneath it. I said, oh, how am I going to get him off this stool? I didn't want to like flick him off, so I just kind of waited, and I kept turning the stool over, and he would just crawl deeper into the bottom of the stool. Now, it's a collapsible stool. If you guys are familiar with these, they collapse. But I knew the edges were pushed out so it wouldn't collapse. I'd already turned it over 3 or 4 different times. Oh, this was so heartbreaking though. I turned the stool over one more time while he was inside of it, and slam, it collapsed. And I grabbed it open really quick, and I looked in, and the little spider was on his back. And I'm like, son of a bitch, I just killed the spider. I'm walking around in circles going, what just happened? Why, after that intimate moment, that 10 minutes with this sweet little soul, did I accidentally kill it? I can't even tell you. It was 1,000,000 to 1 that I would kill that spider. There's no way that could happen unless it was meant to happen. Now, I went through a moment of confusion, and I was upset. I didn't cry, but I thought, what is happening here? And I knew something was happening, but I didn't know what it was. I just was waiting for clarity. I walked around for a while. I picked him up and I put him on a leaf, and I'm like, well, maybe he's just stunned. Maybe it didn't kill him. And I'm like, oh, he could have been in any one of the 50 little cubby holes that would have shielded him from the closure, but he was sitting on the edge of one, and I just, as I'm walking around in confusion, I knew something else was going on. I didn't know what though. I picked him up, I put him on a leaf, and I sat there with him for a minute, and I'm like, oh my God, this little guy's gone. I'm like, oh my God, what am I going to do? I'm not taking him home and like, okay, I set him down in the grass by the edge, and I walked away, and I went into my truck, and I sat there for a minute. I'm like, what the flip just happened? And almost as soon as I said it, and I started to drive away, I realized what was happening. And I said, oh my gosh. The first thing I said was doubt. I said, if I'm justifying what happened with what I think happened, forgive me, but I feel like I know what happened. I thought about the Instagram post just the night before, where the gentleman, the clairvoyant, said that when you acknowledge your food and bless it, basically, it can come back as a higher vibrating being. I just knew what had happened. And then in that moment, I knew what happened with the squirrel. And I knew what happened with the bee. Now, I didn't end the life of the bee. I was just present for the life ending of the bee. I ended the life of the squirrel, which I acknowledged afterwards. And I said, I'm sorry, buddy. I hope that I even said out loud in my truck, I hope that your next incarnation is a beautiful one. And I said, even on the episode, I think I said that I something to that degree. I didn't know what I was saying at the time. But what I was doing was blessing him. Blessing that soul. And I knew by the intimate interaction that I had with that spider, and the fact that that interaction ended in his death, which was a serendipitous, absolutely 1 in a million chance that would happen, that spider was not leaving until our contract or our fated encounter was complete. And I just knew this, that I facilitated the end of the life of this spider so this spider can be acknowledged and seen and be reincarnated in a higher version of himself. I thought, of course, about my sister hitting that transgender in her car. She facilitated the death of that gentleman and transmuted all of his karma for him. That's what her guides told her that she was doing. Now, what are the chances that I would have that book at all? And I described this encounter with my other sister, who I haven't seen in over a decade. And when I do see her, it's once a decade, who's the younger sister of the sibling who I'm speaking about from my mother's first marriage, who I don't see either for the same reason. She sent me this book serendipitously out of nowhere. And there I read in it about my sister, who is an angel and a Pleiadian, who had basically the same path as I'm walking, who ended the life of this transgender gentleman and transmuted his karma for him. So I knew intuitively, and this is the expansive energy I live in, the magical energy that I live in, I knew that I transmuted the karma or the soul of that little spider. He waited until I did it. He was not leaving until I did it. And the way that I felt, I knew it was true because I didn't feel sadness. Just like with the squirrel, I wasn't sad. I knew something divine was happening. So whether this continues or not doesn't matter. What happened in this 3-week period was meant to be an experience for me to share, not just that I may be transmuting karma for insects in my life or other beings potentially, but this is the magical quality of my existence now that I'm in this vast energy of my divine self. That I've disconnected my brain from the matrix. My brain is now coherent with my heart and my body. My intuition is now clear. My body is a resonance chamber. This is why I've been guided to change my diet, why I don't ingest processed foods anymore. I don't ingest gluten, sugar, a little bit of sugar, but not much. I don't eat industrialized dairy or any dairy at all. I don't eat meat. I try to only eat live foods. Every time I look at a post, it's eat live food, Sophia. It might as well say that. I'm basically, and I've changed my dietary habits. I eat 1 meal a day and I snack on live foods once or twice more. I've completely changed my diet because my body is a resonance chamber. You cannot fill your body with garbage and your heart and your mind and be resonant with your divine self. It just can't happen. That's why I've been transformed to the degree that I've been transformed. So it all makes more sense every single day. The magical quality of this life is what we perceive. It's always there. It's never not there. I'm not speaking as a special soul. I'm speaking as a soul who's awakened to the magic of my existence and now my environment and my gifts. I don't live from my brain. I live from my heart and my intuition, which is in resonance with the energy of Mother Earth, who I'm working directly with. Now I understand more how I'm transmuting her creatures, her beings, into higher versions of themselves. And I don't know if this is going to continue or not. That's not the point. I went through this series of events so I could share it, and it may very well end now because that's all Source needed me to do, was share this experience. Maybe it'll continue. I don't know. I don't have to hold on to that. I have surrendered completely to my purpose, which is to respond to my intuition, inspired action, rest, eat when you're hungry, sleep when you're tired, work when you're inspired is how I live my life. And it's such a magical existence. I can barely contain myself. So this sweet little spider, who I didn't notice until I showed my daughter and granddaughter the picture yesterday of the spider, because I didn't see my girls the day before, the day it happened. I saw them yesterday. My daughter exploded the picture on my phone and said, "There's an eye on his back." And I looked closely, and there is an eyeball imprinted in color on the back of this spider. I don't know what kind of spider this is, but I told my daughter, I said, "Does that not look like a divine being to you?" And she says, "Absolutely." This sweet little face of the spider and this beautiful, colorful eye on his back. I don't know exactly who this being was, but I imagine he was not a lesser energy, meant to bring me through the next phase of my growth as a spiritual, energetic, psychic being living in the human form. This is the marriage of humanity and divinity. This is not the separation of the two. This is me embodying my divine self in my human existence. And this is how this work is done, which is so extraordinary. So I wanted to share that with you. There was a whole other thing that I will talk about later, I guess. And thank you again for sharing this incredible journey with me and these extraordinary experiences. I'm so excited to be here on this medium, and I'm so excited to be here with you. Thank you so much.